Hello there, this is Debbie Heiser, and I am so stinking excited to share this new season 4 with you. And I can't believe that this is already the 4th season of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. And I just want to thank each of you who listen. And my hope is that the tools, the thoughts and experiences I share, as well as the work I've done to love myself, love others, and love the work I'm called to do, that also helps me lead a truly lit up life, will help you move into a more lit up life yourself. A few things to look for in this season. Super excited to share that we're going to be coming to you now every week with episodes jam-packed with information to serve you. Every other week, you'll hear from a guest who's leading a life that they love, and I'll be asking them to share their stories, how they got there, and any thoughts or advice that they can give you, our loyal listeners. We have new music too, and I'm so thrilled to introduce this song called Ride, sung and co-written by my friend, Miss Jackie Wilson. And she, along with her collaborators, Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee, are super talented and generous, as this song fits perfectly into the thought of stepping into your best life. To follow any or all of these talented folks, check out the show notes for their social handles. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy season 4 and do us a solid and leave us a rating and a comment to help us be able to share more with people across the globe. Now, let's get started with this episode.
You're the only one who really can transform your mind.
Hello there. Welcome back to an episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. My name is Debbie Heiser, and I am a business consultant and leadership coach, and I help entrepreneurs basically do what they love and make a lot of money doing it. And I am super excited today to have Trudi Jaye, the author, and Trudi Caffell, my friend, on with us today to talk about how she leads her lit up life. And I met Trudi. You've heard a lot of these interviews actually that I've met these phenomenal women in the Spirit of Wealth mastermind that I'm a part of. And Trudi is one of those women. She comes from way across the pond in New Zealand. And I am so thrilled to have her today because she has gone through some transformations and we all continue to grow. That's just what we do. But I'm going to let her introduce herself professionally. But she is one of my favorite people. Every time I talk to you, Trudi, I laugh. And that to me is a blessing in the world today. So tell us what you do and who you are.
Well, first of all, I have to say I love to laugh too. So that's why I kind of am a bit like I am. My name is Trudi Jaye. I'm an author. I have been a full-time author for a number of years. I started out as a journalist, a magazine journalist and editor. And then at a certain point, I decided that I wanted to become a writer, as in write novels, and so I worked towards that. And I can't even remember how long ago. It's a long time ago now that I've been doing the full-time author thing. I write urban fantasy novels for young adult and sort of early adult age range. Not early adult as in early full adult, not early childhood, and I do them under the pseudonym of Trudi Jaye, and I've got 17 novels out there in the world. So fantastic. I've been doing it. Yeah, it's what I love. Like I've always been, like, English was my favorite subject at school, and I went into journalism, and I always like kind of playing around with words and story. Actually, I kind of like to think of myself as a storyteller as well. So
absolutely,
those are all the things that kind of encapsulate me and what I love to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and thank you for sharing. And so you were an editor before. What drew you? Like, you loved English, but what was that decision-making point when you said, I'm going to do this full time? I'm going to write novels for the teenage 20-something age range, right? Whatever you called them. And like, what was the turning point for you?
Well, I'd been doing sort of creative writing with a group for while I was a journalist, while I was writing and working for magazines. And it actually was a friend of mine, the husband of a friend of mine, who was also a good friend of mine. He actually died. He was age 39. He got cancer, and within a very short space of time, he died. And that hit me hard. I was like, I almost thought to myself, you know what, I've been kind of waiting around waiting around to, like, I remember wanting to write when I was in my early 20s and thinking, oh, I just don't know enough. I'm not, you know, I haven't had lived enough. I haven't had enough of a experience out in the world. And then I got it. And that was in my 30s when I was, this friend of mine died. And I just thought, you know what, life's short. Life's too short to be mucking around doing something that I'm not totally in love with. And I just went, I'm going to make this happen. Whatever needs to happen is I'm just going to make it happen. And I did. Like, I just made it happen, basically. That's all I can say about that. Yeah.
You did. And unfortunate that happened to your friend, but what a great moment, you know, to remember that, looking at that situation and not waiting around anymore. I love that wording that you used. And so, Trudi, as you jumped into this, like, did you run into some obstacles? That was a total setup, wasn't it?
so many obstacles. I mean, I do what they call, I'm an indie publisher, so I do it myself. So and I was set up for success in that I worked in publishing industry in magazines, and so I had sort of experience with designers and marketing. Like, I'd worked for a marketing communications team, so I had sort of been exposed to that kind of stuff as well. And I think maybe the biggest hurdle for me was kind of sitting down and writing the books, and then kind of putting them out there. Like, there's a lot of it's quite hard, really, to put your books out there into the and like have actually people read them, and it's like a little piece of you is going out into every single book that you're writing. So
does it feel like you're a little bit exposed?
Yeah. You do, and you're kind of, you're setting yourself up for, like, not just you know, not being judged by your circle, but like by a whole bunch of people that you don't even know. You know, like, it's quite funny. So you have to kind of develop, and I had, to be fair, developed a fairly tough skin because of the journalism. So I do really enjoy getting feedback from other people in terms of my writing. But I had been doing it a long time, and I just beginning of this year I decided to join the Spirit of Wealth. We talked about the mastermind, and that has kind of opened up a whole new set of things for me, where I kind of realized that I was holding myself back in a lot of ways. And so this year I've been facing a lot of the obstacles that I didn't even know were there. So
isn't that interesting how that happens?
yeah So it was kind of so there were obstacles in terms of setting it up, of tech things, of learning all these new systems, of learning how to operate things on Amazon, which is my main platform where I sell my books. Obstacles in terms of, you know, things like setting up websites. I mean, you just have to, there's almost every time you look around, there's a new thing that you have to do. And I'm part of a podcast called The Spa Girls, and we do a weekly show about self-publishing for beginners, like people just setting out, just kind of, and sometimes we'll talk to people, and it'll be, each week it'll be like, oh, they did this great thing with Facebook ads, and they'll do all this information about Facebook ads, and I'll be like, oh, I so need to be on Facebook ads. And then the next week they'll talk about BookBub ads, which is another type of advertising. And they'll be, oh, I need to be on there. And every week we have someone coming along and talking about some new thing that we have to, you know, that we have to do, and it's going to be the one thing, the secret pill to be successful. And so every week I have to go, no, it's okay, Trudi, you've got your plan, you've got your things that you know you're doing, and you can keep doing, stay the course. It's okay, stay the course. So
it's
so that
so
kind of
easy to get squirreled out. I was just sharing with the client the squirrels that are in her head.
Oh gosh,
what's been your biggest aha this year so far?
So this year I've had many, to be fair. So I was living in chaos, basically. Everything was like, I was messy. I had everything all over my office. My thoughts were chaotic. It was chaos and confusion were kind of ruling me. And I thought that was just a personality trait, because I was a creative person. Like, I just thought that was the way it was. It was just my personality. It was just who I had to be. And what I've learned this year is that actually it's not. That was a result of kind of a lot of fear, a lot of basically hiding behind not wanting to make a decision. So creating the confusion so that I didn't have to make a decision and move forward, like almost like it was just this whole kind of rolling, a big ball of kind of not being afraid, basically, of moving forward and doing something bigger with my life. And then there was also on the other side of that a fear of or a belief that there was a right answer and a wrong answer. And that's I still find myself doing that, like a belief that if I didn't pick the right answer, it was going to be a disaster, that it would be all wrong and there would be no way forward, and I would, everything would, like, I don't know, fall down some big hill and back down to the dumpster at the bottom, into some pit at the bottom, and that there would be no way forward. Like, it was almost that kind of thinking. And what I have been able to learn this year is that there are, that right and wrong is just in my head, and that you just make a decision, you move forward with that decision, you analyze that decision, and then you make changes if you need to and move forward. And that's how you keep making decisions, is what keeps you moving forward, and the right and wrong and the chaos are what keeps you in exactly the same position, and you don't go anywhere. So
what do you do to keep yourself out of that today? Like when you notice it, you notice, you go, because I think we all do things to keep ourselves out of the chaos, and we keep that grounding. But then what are some things you do when you catch yourself? Because, well, I'm assuming you do, because I do. So I'm mirroring your Trudi, but like I'll catch myself kind of going down the squirrel, and starting to go into some of those things and those messages that I have in my brain. And so now I catch myself so much faster. But what are some things that you do to catch yourself?
So the chaos or the confusion, I felt it yesterday, actually. We came back home from a holiday and I was like, oh no, I've spent 4 days on holiday and now I can't, I'm behind and I've got all this stuff I have to do. And that kind of feeling was something I'm really familiar with, because that's what I used to do to myself all the time, was like create this panic, and then you don't get anything done. Like you think you panic, you get flustered, and then it takes you away from actually being able to get the stuff done that you need to get done. Like, even though you've got so many things, or you think you do. And actually what I did yesterday was I sat down and I read through the list of everything that I need to get done, like for the rest of the year, like we call it the playbook. And I read through that, and actually just the process of looking through all of those things, and just kind of, it was almost like the grounding, like you say, like just that kind of calmed me down. And I said, no, this is where I'm at, and this, just reminding myself where I was and what I needed to do, and kind of, it's about trust in my mind, and kind of just saying, look, I know what I need to do. I know that I'm going to get there. I just need to sit down and work out what the next thing is on my schedule to do, and just do that, and not worry about the confusion and the chaos over here. And it worked. It was like, today I feel really calm and I'm focused and I'm back on track. So, and actually by yesterday afternoon I was too. So
yeah, that's awesome, Trudi. And kind of what I hear you saying, and at least part of what I've experienced, is what Trudi is referencing is this tool that we use in Spirit of Wealth, where we actually think about what it is that we want and get really crystal clear on that. And for many of you listening, that may be difficult. And I know when I first started that work, it was really difficult for me to even be really clear about what I wanted. And I had these like erroneous thoughts about, if I want something, I'm being selfish, or I'm putting myself first and not my child or my husband, or, blah, 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 all this stuff. And this tool of us like looking at a year from now where we want to be in multiple categories does help you stay the course, because you have to have a map, which the map can be flexible, but I'm hearing you say that's been a really good tool for you. So that's good.
And I actually, like you say, like at the beginning of this year, that we had to sit down and kind of make out these goals. And I didn't really even know what I wanted. Like I knew that I wanted something more. I knew that I wanted to be bigger and better and more exciting than I was. If you can be more excited.
And look at you, now you're skiing.
I know, right? That's a whole new thing. And now, because of the processes that we've been going through over the course of this year, I know more about what I want and who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. And I've got these like little catchphrases that I'm using to kind of remind myself of that. And I didn't have those at the beginning of the year. I would have been too afraid to even I don't know, I wouldn't have understood that that's what I was looking for, whereas now I know that. And it's I've got it's like express, create, be alive is one of them, you know, like that kind of just show up, be someone who's out there in the world. And that's all in my my notes and my goals as well now. And that's been
great.
an awesome part.
And I want to go back because you were talking about trusting yourself.
Mm.
And I know before we started taping, the question I have is like, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody, what would it be? And you talked about trust. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does it mean to trust yourself?
Yeah, for me, it's that was part of the chaos and the confusion. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself to make a decision, to say, this is what I'm going to do, and I know what I'm doing. Like I have the knowledge and the information inside me to know what's best for me in my career or me in my life, and just trust myself and just do it and move forward. And that was scary. That's actually quite, you know, it's really easy to stay where you are and stay in one place and be comfortable and not move. But actually, for me, it's really important to challenge myself. That's where I feel most alive. And I'd forgotten how. I think I knew how to trust myself when I was younger. And as I got older, I stopped being able to trust myself. Things happened in my life. And now I'm kind of relearning that, like kind of saying, actually, I'm going to go forward, and I'm confident that I'm going to be able to achieve these things that I want to achieve. And that's, and as you say, it's working for me both in a professional world, but also in my private life. Like for me and my family, our word this year has been adventure. And we have gone whitewater rafting, we've gone jet boating, we've taken up skiing again for the first time in 20 years for both me and my husband. I can't think what else we've done. We've been doing these big adventurous things that are just, it's been amazing. It's been really great.
I can't wait to come visit. I know you and Naomi live in different parts of New Zealand, but I can't wait to make the tour. And whitewater rafting's on my bucket list.
I'll go with you. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you choose adventure? That's an awesome word.
Yeah, I think I felt like it wasn't even just adventure as in it had to be outdoors, and it was just be more adventurous. Like I felt like I used to be adventurous when I was younger. I was an exchange student in Denmark when I was 17. I went to the States when I was 21, and I was a camp counselor there, and I went to the Olympics and volunteered at the Olympics. In Atlanta, that'll date me. And then I used to do all these things. I traveled and lived in Scotland for a year, and I did, I used to be adventurous, and it used to be an integral part of who I was. And then I came back home here, I settled down a bit, I got a job, I went into my career, and I had a family, have a daughter, and you just kind of, I don't know, I just lost that adventure. And I just decided that was a really integral part of who I am and who I want to be. And it lights me up. So that's great. That's why, yeah.
Well, and I want to transition though into like, what lights you up in regards to what you're doing as far as being an author, creating these stories and these storylines. And I would imagine, because I know as a reader, as a consumer of writing, like I get especially in series, which I know you do series, is like I get invested in the characters, and like I'm really sad and sometimes mad when I'm at the last book and I don't want to let it go. So I'm kind of feeding you a little bit of info there, but like what lights you up in regards to what you're doing in the world?
What lights me up? I'm a reader. Like I've always been a reader. I was that little kid who had his nose stuck in a book when everyone else was doing stuff. And so I love that feeling of, when you find a book and you just want to keep reading it, and you don't want to, like, you know that it's midnight and you really have to get up really early the next day, but you keep reading till like 2 o'clock in the morning just because you can't put it down. Mm-hmm. Like, and I was kind of like, that was as I was growing up was something that I just loved that. And I guess as I got older, I was kind of like, you know what, I want to do that for other people. I want to write these stories that are compelling and kind of they're engrossing, and they're become part of that world. And so that's kind of been my goal. I like making stuff up. I have a lot of weird stuff going on in my head. And I just, how do you come up with the characters? Like, is there a process that you use to kind of put the characters together? Like,
or do you just have a thought and you start running with it? Like, what's your process?
So the very first book, the very first series I published was it's called the Dark Carnival series, and it's based in a carnival where there's magic and they grant wishes. They stop at every place and they grant a wish to one person, and it's all magic and stuff happening around. And that one started like this random way. Like I was watching the MTV Awards one time late at night, and they had this dark carnival circus, like creepy clown circus kind of theme, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I was thinking, that TV show, The Fantasy Island, with the little guy, and he was like, the plane.
Yeah.
And that's probably, and I kind of mixed those two. I was kind of like, how when they went to Fantasy Island and they were always like, they thought they had this wish that they wanted to have granted. And then if they were kind of a little bit egotistical, or they had something, that they needed, a lesson they needed to be taught, they would always teach them that lesson, and so they would leave the island a better person and be. And so I was kind of thinking along those lines, like, what if they were granting these wishes, and sometimes the wish didn't get granted in the way that the person kind of asked it, that I want $1 million. Well, maybe that was greedy and horrible, and they needed, I don't know, it was just that idea of maybe the wishes wouldn't be exactly the way they thought they were going to come out anyway. So I kind of mashed up those two ideas and thought this kind of dark carnival with a kind of a twist of magic and wishes, and then went from there and created the characters. So and other ones one is May, who is a dragon shifter. So these are my books all can have urban fantasies all about magic, but it's set in contemporary times. So wizards and so she's a dragon shifter, and her name, my husband and I were driving along up to a beach place. It's about 3 hours away, and I was saying to him, okay, I need a new series, and I wanted to be a dragon. And we saw a sign that said May flood, and it was a sign that was, like flooding, like telling you that up ahead there could be flooding, like, right. And he goes, call her May Flood. And I'm like, I'm not calling her May Flood. Like, but I kept the May bit, like that was the kind of, so, and he's still bitter at me actually about not calling her May Flood. But I just couldn't quite do that. So it was just, sometimes it's just a process and just working through what I want them to be and how something that tickles my fancy. Like sometimes
so what I hear you saying is sometimes the plot or the idea of what the book series will be about comes to you, and then the characters develop, and other times you see a character and develop a story around the character. And it just kind of depends. How fun is that?
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like, oh my gosh,
to play and make believe. I love it.
It's one of my favorite things to actually help other authors as well brainstorm ideas. Like we just, it's so much fun. It's the best bit actually. Yeah, that's
fantastic. Now, when I think about too, like you took this on and decided to lead your life, and when you do that, there's a certain amount of faith that goes into doing that. And so, what does faith mean to you?
Faith was about trusting myself. Like the idea of faith was believing that I can do the things that I want to do, and kind of giving myself the space or the opportunity to do them. So that was it, and it all sort of circles around to that trust. Like it's honestly everything is and I think I can't remember where I've heard it, but the idea of where you can either worry about the future or you can have faith in your future. And neither of them is any more true than the other. You just have to, and I pick faith. I pick, believing in myself. I pick every day of the week, trusting myself that I'm going to be able to do the things I need to do, over worrying about what might happen, So,
yeah, absolutely. So what's next for Trudi Caffell, my friend?
Oh, wow, we're going on holiday next weekend, and we're going to fly up to the top of we're going to Mount Cook, Iraqi area, and we're just looking this morning about doing a helicopter ride over the glacier. So that's our adventure for next week.
I can't wait to see photos. And when this comes out, because it'll be a few months from now, we're taping this at the end of September. You'll have to post a picture. Like when I tag you on Facebook, you'll have to post a picture of the glacier. Oh, how exciting. That's another one of my bucket lists, is to take a helicopter ride. So that's fun. Look at you.
The last helicopter ride I took was the Empire State Building on my honeymoon in like 2007, whatever it was, and I was terrified the whole time. So it's going to be one of those experiences where I'm like, oh my gosh, are we going to land soon? But yeah.
Are we really doing this? And then what is in store for my friend Trudi Jaye, the author? What's happening next for her?
I've got 2 more book launches for this year that I am planning. I'm just in the process of organising all of that. And then I've got a new series that I'm starting, which I'm super excited about. So that I'm in this planning stages. I'm in my favourite bit for that one, working out the characters and their flaws and all that kind of thing. So,
any sneak peeks
of the series? It's a wolf shifter series set in a kind of an alternate reality where there are wolf shifters among us and fae and other magical places and things, and she's the main character is a runaway. She's just run away from a bad situation, and she's gone into this area that is protected by a curse. I don't know if protected is the right way, and she's made it into this cursed land, and she's going to discover lots of things about herself. So
fun. Fun. Sounds like a little bit of a correlation to this year for you, my friend.
Yeah, maybe.
Finding out all sorts of things, right? That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Trudi, if somebody wants to read your books or wants to know more about you, where should they go?
My website is www.trudijayewrites, and that's Trudi with an I at the end, and Jaye writes.com.
So writes as in writing, right?
Yeah, right.
So WR, yeah.
Yeah, WRITES, yeah. Hopefully people can also understand my New Zealand accent.
We can. I could listen to you talk forever. I love it. I love the dialect. So I think we have an accent to you, right?
Yeah. No, you have an accent, definitely.
That's right. That's right. Well, Trudi, it has been such a pleasure. And I'm so thankful that you've spent this time with us. And once again, I've been laughing throughout this whole thing. And I cannot wait to see pictures of the glacier. And I cannot wait to come out there and go skiing, because the beautiful thing, I think, is that your winter is our summer and fall. And so I could ski when it's not ski season, which is pretty exciting for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you're welcome anytime. And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun. And with that, it's a wrap. For those of you that would like to get in touch with me, please go out to www.leadyourlituplife.com. Otherwise, you can also still find me at 3, and it's all spelled out, V as in Victor Consulting.com, and as well as Facebook and all of those other social media platforms that are out there right now. So with that, it's a wrap, and everybody have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.